Today we are on our week 2, which is the second module of this class. And today we are going to basically look at different Hadoop server roles and how to basically configure a Hadoop cluster, how to get a basic Hadoop cluster up. And we're going to look at what is the architecture of a Hadoop cluster, how do you read and write on files on Hadoop cluster. So we're going to look at all of that good stuff today. And so let's get started. So these are topics for today, basically. So we're going to look at various servers roles, that what are the roles of different components in the Hadoop system, which we discussed briefly yesterday. So yesterday was like mostly theoretical. So today we are going to actually do a real setup. So that's where we'll see a real demo of how different components that we talked about yesterday work. We are going to look at HDFS architecture. We are going to look at MapReduce job execution. And then you're going to look at how a file is written on Hadoop and how do you read a file from Hadoop? How does it actually happen? What's the anatomy? What is rack awareness? Then we're going to do a Hadoop installation. We're going to look at mail Hadoop configuration files. How do you change the parameters there to get a cluster up? And what are the different cluster modes? And then we're going to look at some cluster architecture, how it looks like in production. And then we're also going to look at Hadoop multi-node installation and what are Hadoop clients. So looks like we have a lot to cover today. So let's get started. So now let's look at these cluster modes. So now we are going to start basically installing Hadoop. So when we say Hadoop cluster, it can run in basically 3 modes. So first is standalone mode, which is local mode. There's pseudo distributed mode, and then there's a fully distributed mode. So before that, let me quickly check if somebody has any more questions. There's one question by Varun that what happens if the job fails after 250 MB load? So again, I will try to correct Varun that we are not talking about jobs right now. We are talking about writing a data or reading a data. So if we're saying is what happens if the job fails after 250 MB load? So what we are saying is if you have a 400 MB file and 250 MB is written, so in case somebody tries to query that 250 MB data, would he be able to read those blocks or not? So we are saying that it would be able to read the block, but say after 250 MB, it was copying say 350th MB of this was copying like 300 to 350 MB of data, and during that write process fail. So in that case, the whole process will fail. So the whole 400 MB write will fail, and the client will basically get a failure code and will basically have to rewrite that file. So in that case, you won't be able to see that file if the writing part fails in between. But what we are saying is if writing is happening and out of 400 250 has been successfully written, are you able to query that or not, was the question. So you would be able to query that 250 MB, but and that time the rest of the data is still being copied. But if that copy job, basically the copy, I would not say job, a copy task fails in between, then that 250 MB data will also be gone, because writes on Hadoop are either full or none. So you write the entire data or you don't write the data. So when you say Hadoop FS put, so if that put fails on certain blocks, then your complete put command will fail. You won't be able to put that file on HDFS. So hopefully that answers your question, Varun. So Fanny is asking, what is popular out of these? Right. So we are going to discuss each of these. So basically, the local mode is when basically you don't run any daemon on the system. It is just for like development and testing kind of mode. You don't have any distributed file system. You just install basic Hadoop, and then you just do some development. You have some jar files that you want to run. So that's used only for development process. And then pseudo distributed mode means you are going to run all the basically daemons in a Hadoop system on just one machine. And fully distributed is when you have cluster of machines and every machine runs one daemon. So in production, everybody mostly will have, not mostly, 100% everybody would install a fully distributed mode, because that's how we say that a name node will be a one machine, data node would be one machine, job tracker would be one machine, and task trackers would be on data nodes. In smaller clusters, name node and job tracker might run on same host. But if you have a big cluster, these all name nodes, job tracker, secondary name node, these will be separate machines, and your data nodes and task trackers will be on other set of machines, which are the slave nodes. So funny thing, I have a video 400 MB. When someone try to read, can they see the video still while only 250 of MB? So we were talking in terms of like blocks. So when you are trying to basically use it through the APIs, when you have written and you are trying to read those through the API, so you would be able to read the blocks which have already been written on HDFS, because those blocks were already, the rights of those blocks are already complete and they are already available. So Varun is saying, another question is, a commit has to be done in order to see the complete data, right? So the commit, yes, the commit would be when, for the blocks, for when you are trying to basically write the block. So you have multiple set of blocks, right? So those block written is being happen in parallel. So once all the blocks are written, then basically the client will get the final commit code that your file is now written on HDFS. All right, so now let's start with our installation. So what we are going to do is we are going to use a virtualization environment. So I don't know if you guys were able to log into our LMS. So what I have, for example, is something like a Oracle Virtualbox Manager. So where basically you can create multiple virtual machines. So what we do is we basically create, basically first of all set up virtualization software like a virtual manager. This is for Mac, and then you also have like VMware players on for Windows and PCs, so you can use that. So first thing is to get VirtualBox Manager. So what I did was I just went to internet, I downloaded VirtualBox Manager and installed it, and when I installed it, it opened up this session, and it basically tells me I can create a new virtual machine and I can look at those settings. So what I did was I created all these virtual machines. So let's see how basically we create this virtual machine. So before that, Sanjay has a question. In case of a failure after 250 MB or 400 MB block MB file, is 250 MB written rolled back and write process starts again? Yes. So that's what I said, that when you write data to HDFS, your data would be either full or it would be none. So the question was more about like, if you are writing and within the write process is still going on and 250 MB is written, so can you read that data or not? So you can read that, but say your writing process failed, then 250 MB is also part of your complete write process, which is 400 MB file, right? So in that case, the whole file will just go away and you won't see anything because the process has failed. If the process would have completed, then you would have been able to see the whole 400 MB file. So in that case, client will basically get a failure code and it will have to basically rewrite and get the new blocks from name node and write the file again. So Ryan is saying you have VirtualBox, so that's good. So Ryan is saying, do we have any sizing recommendation for distributing services while configuring cluster in prod? Yes. So Narayan, that's also we are going to discuss in our today's. After we are done with this, we are going to look at the cluster configuration and see what should be the sizing and what are like some general. Like recommended and used configurations for sizing in production. So Ashok, hi Ashok. So Ashok, do you have a question? Can you explain pseudo system? Right. So Ashok, we are going to go, as now we have started the installation, right? So this is what going to be, we are going to discuss for next half an hour. So this will answer your all those questions. So pseudo system, Ashok is saying, can I explain the pseudo system once again? Right. So I'm actually going to demo this as we go. So we are going to now start the Hadoop installation. So initially we are going to start with the first mode, which is local mode, and then we are going to go with pseudo and fully distributed mode. So let's discuss each of these one by one. So standalone, hopefully everybody is clear that we don't run anything. I'll show you how it works. Then pseudo distributed means run everything on just one machine. Fully distributed means the real production scenario. That's the way how Hadoop is run, that you have multiple machines. One machine is running one kind of role. So name node is running on one machine, job tracker is running on another machine, your secondary name node is running on another host, and then you have your slave nodes which run data node as well as task tracker. So you'll have basically, say suppose you have 10 machines, so one machine would be name node, one machine would be job tracker, rest 8 would be your data nodes and task trackers. So that's basically means fully distributed machine, the distributed mode. So hopefully Ashok, is this is clear now. So sudo is dev, or it is used in, for example, you are say test doing a POC and you are running something. For example, if I am trying to set up a small Hadoop cluster, I might set up a pseudo distributed mode to just test things. So pseudo is also kind of a dev. So in production, or when you have to say you have real data and you want to test Hadoop cluster, then you'll usually always have fully distributed mode. All right, so now let's get back to our virtualization environment. So this is how we are going to basically do the Hadoop installation. So everybody would also basically need to have the software Virtualbox, or you can have VMware from Windows. So what you would do is you have to basically, we are going to create one virtual machine for each of the daemon that we run in the system. So what you do is you basically click on new, and then you can basically create a virtual machine. So for example, I'm trying to create a machine. I'll say lab 1, and you give the type of um, um, OS that you want. So because VirtualBox lets you, it's a virtualization environment, so you can basically install any kind of OS. So since Hadoop runs on Linux, so we are going to go with Linux. And then you can have different flavors of Linux. You can have Ubuntu, you can have basically Red Hat, you can have Linux, you can have CentOS. So we are going to go, I'm going to do it with CentOS. So for CentOS, you select basically other Linux and 64-bit. Then you click on continue. It tells you how much memory you want, so you can go with any basically value based on the size of your laptop or your machine. So I have a 16 gig basically RAM, so I can make it 512, or I can make it 1 MB. So you can just increase the number, or you can move this bar left to right. So I'll, for time being, I'll let it stay 512 MB. And then I continue, and then it tells that it is going to create a virtual hard drive. So you can either say no or yes. So basically just keep on creating this, and then it asks you what type of drive you want. So you can see these different options. So usually it's recommended to use VMDK, because VMDK is interoperable between the um, which basically VMware player and this. So basically if you go to, for example, you want to move this VM image to a Windows machine, if you have VMDK, it would work, but if you use basic VDI, it won't work. So usually it's advisable to use VMDK. And then it's saying the hard drive, you want to make it fixed size or dynamically. So usually it's good to leave it dynamically, because it will just then shrink or basically increase based on the space when it's needed. And then you can give the name of the hard drive, and then you can say what would the maximum size of the hard drive. So it is saying 8 right now, and then you just click create. So you can see that now it has created a new virtual machine for me, which is called lab 1. And since I have not done anything, it was a very quick machine, and so it just created it. So now I can go here and look at the settings. So it will have all the settings that I basically initially created. So you can say that I specified a Linux machine, and I said the Linux is CentOS. And then on the system side, it tells you how much memory you have allocated to it. On the storage side, it tells you how much storage you have. You have said maximum 8 GB. And then on the network side, you can basically tell what kind of network adapter it will have. So you have the options of NAT, bridge adapter, and then you have host only adapter. So NAT means that when you have a VM on NAT, basically you cannot talk to internet, because it will be behind a firewall, and it will basically assign a NAT IP to it. And then bridged means that it can basically talk to internet and can talk to your laptop also. And host only means it can only talk to your laptop, it cannot talk to internet again. So mostly it's good to make it bridged, so that you can basically get files from your laptop to your virtual machine. So we'll make it bridged. And then we go under storage. So here we can see that the controller, so you have to basically tell what image you are going to use to for making this VM. So if you are making a CentOS, so basically you go to CentOS website and download the image. So I download a minimal image, and there's a DVD image also. So I'll say that, okay, please install this CentOS server on this. So basically I'm now just specifying the parameters that I need for this virtual machine. And once I do this, now I can basically go here and so I'll say press OK, and then I can start this virtual machine. So when I start this machine, now this is a new machine. It will start installing the CentOS because I just gave my image as CentOS. So you can click on enter and it will start the installation. So you can see that it is going to just now start the OS and basically install the file system and then try to make the host name, and it'll ask you certain questions. Just continue on those questions. Say to begin testing, you can say skip or just starts installation. So I'll say skip, and so it will start installation. So say welcome to CentOS. It will tell me what language do I want. So I select English, and keyboard selection I say US. So I'll just go by default, and it's saying that it asking me to reinitialize everything. So I'll just press my arrow key and go to reinitialize, click enter, and time zone I'll stay leave it as it is, press OK, tab to move to OK button, and then press enter. And then it's asking me passwords, so I'll enter a password for this machine. So make sure you remember this password, click OK. And then it's asking that it's going to replace everything existing on this machine because it is a new VM. So I can just say yes. So I'll just press tab and go to OK button. And then it is saying that it's going to write this changes to disk. So I again say enter on this, and now you can see it is started creating the file system and starts basically installing the OS. So this is how basically you will start do a OS installation. So this process is going to take some time. So what we did was I did these steps, and now I already have a basic CentOS virtual machine up. So Ryan is saying, can you go back to the disk image step? Disk image step, if you meant this question. Where do I find CentOS install? You just did. So basically, if you look under controller, this is where you go to you specify the CD or DVD drive where your OS is. So when I started my installation, I clicked on this. So I basically have already installed. So when you have your OS installed, you it will basically now it is finding it out from my previous basically it's remembering it. So what I did was you if you don't have, so what will happen initially is you will click on this and you will only see choose this option. You won't see rest of these are seeing there because I have installed these images previously and it see them in the history. So you will click on this and you will choose find the location where you downloaded your image, and you just click on that and then press it will you press open, and then you will see it in this list. And once you do that, it will be assigned to this controller, and that's the image it will use when you start this VM here. So where you saying I downloaded full version, that's fine. It basically, if you have enough hard disk space, so that's you can download the full version also. I go with minimal because I don't really need full version because my I'm just running basic system, so it's able to the minimal is able to handle. And if I need something else, I just download that particular package. So, and Funny saying, are you sorry, are you going to have three nodes like name node, job tracker, data node? Yes, Funny. So right now we are doing one installation. So we're going to go through each of these steps. So yes, I'm going to show you the pseudo distributed mode as well as full distributed also. So let's see. So Funny saying, I see you already have them in your VM, right? Because this process takes time. So that's why I wanted to show everyone how to create a VM and how to start it. And then basically we can proceed. So now basically it says that your CentOS installation is done and you can basically reboot it, and then your machine will come up. So now your machine is ready. So that's how basically you will basically create this. And then what you can do is you can basically either clone this machine. So you can even clone this machine. So once I turn this off, I would be able to clone it, or you can just repeat the same steps and just create multiple virtual machines. And because whenever you create it initially, they will all be powered off. So they are not going to use your memory. Only when you have them running, they will basically be using the basically your memory, so your host system's memory. So then you basically enter the password that you selected, and then it will bring you to the prompt. So this is how basically you have a basically set up a minimum virtual machine, and you have like, this is like a host now, like a Linux host, where you can install your name node, you can install your job tracker, or you can install your data node. So right. So while it's saying where to find CentOS minimal install, so you can basically just go basically on internet, and you can see, you can say, for example, here you can say CentOS minimal install. So you can see that you can go to mirrors, and based on the place where you have, you can select on one of the mirrors, and when you click on that, these mirrors, you will see there is minimal, there is complete, and there's live DVD. So live DVD sometimes does not work, so I'll suggest use minimal, or you can use this bin DVD. So based on, so you can see that the full DVD is 4.2, but minimal is just 398 MB. So I just went with the minimal because that serves my purpose. So that's how I basically now have a basic host up with a OS system. So Fani is saying, what is OS recommended for name node, job tracker, and data nodes? So Fani, that again depends on organization to organization. So mostly it can be in any flavor of Unix. Red Hat is most recommended. Then, but people use CentOS also because it is open source, and it does not require any support. And a lot of, you will see that all the technology companies, they use CentOS and Ubuntu, but all the companies like finance companies where they want uptime all the time, they have Red Hat say contract, they will go with Red Hat. So it would depend on company to company. So you'll see that a lot of people, it's a mix of Red Hat, CentOS, and Ubuntu.